people who immersed in the surrogate reality of television life deal on a daily basis with a reality totally unlike any that has preceded it. The image stream is a steady, mixed-up stream of real, unreal, and semi-real events. All of these events end up merging with each other and becoming just another set of stored imagery that have all similar reality values.
This is the game I've come up with. It's called Waking Dead, and this game is designed to put whoever plays it into a catatonic trance. Basically means their sort of brain goes unraveled, they go into a vegetable-like state when they play the game. Right? Now, this doesn't work on everybody, it'll work on about a third of the people that will play it, and it will only last a few minutes, but that'll be long enough for me to do what I want to do. Okay, got one, we got one. If you follow the cable...
At your peril.
Just keep the pace slow. Another flash. Always going. One more. I'm going to go in. Let's go. Come with me. What's your name? Let's please while I sound the horn. Let's wake him up.
Come on, it's wicked. Fuckers, isn't it? Huh? It was good. It was good.
The previous video was a demonstration of a more advanced form of brainwave manipulation, primarily acting to entrain the mind gradually into states which allow hypnotic and subliminal suggestion to have most effect. This is essentially how a hypnotist puts a patient to sleep, mainly by entraining them with a slow and steady rhythm, typically using the pendulum motion of a watch swinging on a chain. There is usually also a slowing in the pace of speech, as well as a softening of tone in voice, taken on by the hypnotist, to help better entrain the mind of the patient to the desired state. The previous example of applied brainwave technology highlights one of the negative uses of mind control technology. This gives a lot of insight to the psychology of school shootings, but doesn't factor in psychoactive drug use, such as SSRIs, which are directly implicated in nearly all cases of school shootings. The CIA has been known to use very similar methods in order to abduct targets, which then have their minds programmed using other more advanced technologies and methods, such that they can later manipulate them as pawns in assassination plots and other acts of espionage. Now moving on from technology designed to control the mind, to technology designed to be controlled by the mind. With more modern developments in computer technology and research into the brain, software programs have been developed with varying degrees of success that can recognize specific patterns of EEG brainwave measurements and associate them one-to-one with a specific thought or action. It can then consistently read thoughts accurately in real time and translate them to commands on a computer system.
What do you call it?
Thought identification.
Whatever you want to call it, what neuroscientist Marcel Just and his colleague Tom Mitchell at Carnegie Mellon University have done is combine fMRI's ability to look at the brain in action with computer science's new power to sort through massive amounts of data. The goal? To see if they could identify exactly what happens in the brain when people think specific
The
thoughts.
place in the brain where that person was thinking screwdriver?
Screwdriver isn't one place in the brain, it's many places in the brain. When you think of a screwdriver, you think about how you hold it, how you twist it, what it looks like, what you use it for.
And each of those functions are in different places?
Correct.
Just says when we think screwdriver, or igloo for example, neurons start firing at varying levels of intensity in different areas throughout the brain.
And we found that we could identify which object they were thinking about from their brain activation patterns.
You're reading their mind.
We're identifying the thought that's occurring. It's
Whoa.
incredible.
4,000 miles away in Berlin at the Bernstein Center. John Dylan Haynes is hard at work here, using the scanner not just to identify objects people are thinking about, but to read their intentions.
So we're going to start now with the actual experiment.
Subjects were asked to make a simple decision, whether to add or subtract two numbers they would be shown later on. Haynes found he could read directly from the activity in this small part of the brain that controls intentions what they had decided to do.
This is a kind of blown up version of the brain activity happening here. And you can see that if a person is planning to add or to subtract, the pattern of brain activity is different in these two cases.
I always tell my students that there is no science fiction.
This development opens a door into all kinds of new technologies, most notably the ability for blind, deaf, mute, paraplegic and disabled persons to directly control many types of devices and technologies with their mind alone. This would allow them to use tools and objects which would normally be impossible given their disability. Similar technologies have the ability to sense, if a person is familiar with a sight or sound, by monitoring impulses in brainwave activity. This could act as a sort of mind-reading lie detector. This development could also open the door to such ideas as thought police and pre-crime laws, so be forewarned.
Emory University in Atlanta, the ability to read our thoughts and intentions this way is revolutionary.
Throughout history, we could never actually coerce someone to reveal information. Torture doesn't work that well. Persuasion doesn't work that well. The right to keep one's thoughts locked up in their brain is amongst the most fundamental rights of being human.
You're saying that if someone can read my intentions, we have to talk about who might in the future be able to do that.
Absolutely. Whether we're going to let the state do it or whether we're going to let me do it. I have two teenage daughters. I come home one day and my car is dented, and both of them say they didn't do it. Am I going to be allowed to drag them off to the local brain imaging lie detection company?
In the meantime, Haynes is working on something he thinks may be even more effective, reading out from your brain exactly where you've been. Haynes showed me an experiment he created out of a video game.
And you can actually navigate around if you want.
He had me navigate through a series of rooms in different virtual reality houses.
Now I would put you in a scanner and I would show you some of these scenes that you've seen and some scenes that you haven't seen.
Well, haven't seen anything yet. Oh, okay.
And,
okay, now I'm getting into familiar
recognize something?
Yeah, I recognize the bar.
And right at this moment, we would be able to tell from your brain activity that you've already seen this environment before.
And so this is a potential tool for
It's a
police.
potential tool, absolutely.
Last summer, a woman was convicted of murder after an EEG of her brain allegedly revealed that she was familiar with the circumstances surrounding the poisoning of her ex-fiancé.
Can you, through our legal system, be forced to take one of these tests?
It's a great question, and the legal system hasn't decided. May be able to be used covertly and even remotely. So, for example, they're trying to develop now a beam of light that would be projected onto your forehead. It would go a couple of millimeters into your frontal cortex, and then receptors would get the reflection of that light. And there's some studies that suggest that we could use that as a lie detection device.
And we wouldn't know we've got a red dot in our forehead?
No, you wouldn't. If you were
know?
sitting there in the airport and being questioned,
Yeah.
they could beam that on your forehead without...
You're not appealing to man's reason when you're dealing with mind control. That's the first thing. You're dealing to man's irrational self, which is why people like myself are so adamant about developing the reason and developing man's higher, levels of consciousness, because then there's only chance of being immune to all of this. But that's not the agenda of religion. That's not the agenda of the mind controllers. They want to drag you down into an irrational, limbic, mammalian, reptilian, level of consciousness, what the Indian Vedas would call the lower chakra drives, and keep you there permanently so that you're confused and terribly weak, terribly psychologically disempowered. And so therefore you're going to seek stability, you're going to seek security through whatever kinds of handrails that are then provided for you by the system.
This now concludes Chapter 2. There is still a great deal of more information on these topics. I would recommend searching for lectures, books and videos by Michael Tsarion, David Icke, Noam Chomsky, Leonard Horowitz, Jim Keefe, William Cooper and Darren Brown for more information on these subjects. Chapter 3 will start getting into the different types of mind control, including some other important topics, most notably neuro-linguistic programming, emotions, propaganda, and rhetoric, logical fallacies, and mainly the forms of manipulation which operate on the conscious, or beta and alpha states of, mind.